In this video, we're going to work on cleaning up this mess here. So currently we check if we can buy the item, then we get the default object of the item, then we use the item, then we transfer the item away from the shopkeeper. So obviously that's not really the most effective. We can clean this up a good bit, especially considering we have it just wrapped in this else block right here. So yeah, to really begin, let's go ahead and we're going to have to do this kind of on the client as well. So we're going to actually do this test on the client based upon the result of buy item. So we're going to make buy item be a boolean for the return value instead of a void. So let's fix that. Again, we created the implementation and everything in the previous video. So what we want to do, we want to pass in the character. So we want to check it first. So if character and item subclass. Then we want to iterate through our items. So for f item data by reference, item and items, we're going to do if item dot item class is equal to the item subclass. Then we check the cost difference to make sure we can afford it. So if character, or better, we can almost do can by item just to clean it up. So character, or yeah, let's do that. If can by item, we pass in the current gold, so the character get current gold, and then the item sub, or then we pass in, item dot item class. Or actually, we can just do the item subclass. I don't know what I'm thinking. So if we can buy the item, then what we want to do is we want to literally buy it. So otherwise, we return false. So down here, after everything, if all that fails, we return false. So if we can buy the item, we want to get rid of the gold that the item subclass's value of cost has. So that's dictated by this. So let's go to our header here where we have get current gold. Let's do remove gold and make it a void. And we're going to pass in the amount we want to remove. So int32 amount to remove. Create that implementation. And we want to, again, iterate through to find our gold. So we're actually doing that right here. Yeah, like that, where we get current gold. What we do is item dot item. Can I not access the stack size? Oh, I was being stupid. Stack count minus equals amount to remove. So that's just going to get rid of our gold. So that should be handled inside of here. So character, remove gold, and we're going to pass in the cost of the item. So item subclass, no, not item subclass, item dot item cost, and that's it. So that's going to take care of that. And then we return true. And we also want to call transferred item, so that way it removes it. So transferred item, and pass in the item subclass. So that should clean that up immensely. So ultimately, these two functions should no longer be public. Instead, we're going to move them to be protected, which is going to cause some errors over here because we are calling them. So back in our use item, we're just going to remove all of this right here and simply do, what was it? Shopkeeper, buy item. We're going to pass in this and the item subclass. And this returns a boolean. So if we can buy it, we want to do something. So let's see, what were we doing before? We were just calling use on the item. So we want to get the default object of the item to use. So ultimately, we could actually do that inside of by item and just give the result to the character. So I'm going to control Z real quick again. So where item used, and we pass in the character and then the is shop item. So that ultimately that would be good. So we want to perform that before we transfer the item and before we remove gold. So let's copy this here to get the default object. So that confirms that we can buy the item. So we need to rename this one to item CDO. And then we want to call item CDO use, and we pass in the character. And then the second one was what is in shop. Because we're in the shopkeeper, we're going to pass in true. And use, does that return anything? What does use do? So if all that is valid, which we can get rid of this check here. Only thing we need to check is if we're in the shop and the character is valid for obviously safety reasons for a null pointer, in which case we add the item. Okay. Wrong class. Let me move that over. Okay. So inside the shopkeeper, when we buy the item, we check and make sure the character is valid along with the subclass that we're trying to buy. We iterate through and find the item, assuming the character has, or the shopkeeper has that item, and the item, well, we're checking to see if the shopkeeper has the item we're trying to buy. So our item subclass, if it exists in there. If it does, we check and see if we can buy the item based off of our current gold and the item subclass says gold value, which obviously gets returned right here. That is confirmed working. We tested it. If that is true, we get the class default object of the item we're trying to buy, in which case we call the use function on it, the default one, which then we'll go through, check and make sure that we are buying it from a shop, and if the character is valid. If that is the case, which would be true, we add the item to the inventory, and once we, dang it, wrong class again. Once we add the item to the inventory, we remove our gold and transfer the item. So transfer item just removes it from the actual, from the shopkeeper. So what we can do now is simply shopkeeper buy item, pass in our character, and pass in the item subclass that we're trying to buy, and we should be good to go. So let's save all that and recompile and see what happens. Alrighty, let's give it a try. Click it, nothing happens. Pick up 50 gold, click it, nothing happens. So I guess something is failing. Let's get 150 gold, click it, and now it works. We just have some finicky issues there. So we pick up 100 gold, try to buy this for 50. We buy it, nothing updates, buy it again. We can't do that unless we pick up more gold, in which case that updates weirdly. So we're having some issues. So my guess is it's how we are actually going through and updating. So here's where we go through and remove the item, the stack essentially. So this would probably be wise to move into a specific function. So we should take all this and let's just do let's see, where could we put this at? I guess just under use item. Void. Let's do remove item. Yes, and let's see what parameters we're taking in. We need just the item subclass. So T subclass of a item subclass. All right, let's paste that on in. And then we can simply call there's the for loop. Call, remove item, and pass in the item subclass. And then we want to trigger that is locally controlled as well. We want to add that. Oh, wait, no, we already are. So then inside of, again, use item where we call by item. When we call by item, we want to trigger the on rep. So if we are the server, that should possibly take care of the issue of it not updating, but we will see. So let's try it again. Alrighty, no need to load the assets. Pick up gold and that one. Click it. Alright, so we spent 150, we went to 99. So we are removing, oh that's right, I forgot to bump the price to 51. That's why. So I can buy another one, it updates again, and so on. Press I, it's still not appearing, so we're just having an issue visually. Let me actually go ahead and revert that back to 50 because that was screwing with me. Right. Save all. And we're just having an issue when we go to, well, purchase the item. So that's somewhere in here. So it is removing the item from the inventory, I believe. Let me double check. Gotta pick up you. Okay, so that's going to 4. So that's fine. It's just not getting added to our, whatchamacallit. So we're not calling add item. Yep, we forgot to call it. And golly, please tell me my dog didn't just throw up. Okay, she didn't throw up, but that sounded nasty. All right, so we use the item, we remove the gold, call it transferred item. So when we do transferred item, blah, 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 we're removing it and so on and so on. Actually, remove that for each loop because we no longer need it. But we want to call the add item to inventory, which I thought use would be doing. So it is in shop. Whoops. True. So let's see. Let's try it. UV lock. Yeah, because it was working earlier, I think. It was working before. Let's see. So that's remove item. We don't. Okay, let's test that. So pick you up, use it. Okay, so we broke some stuff when we go to use the item. My guess is that was in remove item. So we're not, are we just not using the item? I may have made a mistake here. Let's control Z. Okay, so it is not a shopkeeper. We go through. Yeah, so we're on the server right now. So if we're not the shopkeeper, we go through, find the item, we remove it, blah, blah, blah. No big deal. However, I'm not seeing where we're actually using the item aside from in here where we call buy item. Let's redo all that. So buy item, create the default object. We are obviously removing the gold, so we're obviously calling the use function. So we should be adding it to the inventory. I want to print out the log just to make sure. Adding to inventory. Control Alt F11. Okay, click it. Nothing happens. Good. Pick that up. Click it. Adding item to inventory. And let's pick up another thing of gold. Press I. Still nothing's there. We have the loaves of bread. But that is just not quite working. Okay, so let's see. Alrighty, I guess just to be safe, let's go ahead and fix one bug at a time. So we'll fix the one that broke when we go to use health. So currently we have nothing up for food and health, but when I click on this, we still have nothing. So let's try to fix that first. My guess is that's because we are not calling the use item from the class default object, similar to how we were doing previously, like this right here. Or better yet, right here. So we're going to copy that. And in the authority portion, if we're not the shopkeeper, we want to use the item like so. And then we can go through and remove it. However, that's what we're doing inside of remove item. Well, not exactly, but we're going through, finding if it matches If it does, we then go through and remove item. So let's call this use remove item instead of just remove item. I think that'll make a little more sense, like that. And we're going to add this portion of code in it. So where we have use remove item, if the item matches, like that, we use the item, we pass in false because it is not a shop item, then we remove it. So let's go ahead and close this down and recompile. Alrighty, that's throwing a fit for 234 right there. So we have item, gotcha. So this can be item CDO for class default object. And now let's recompile. Alrighty, now that we're back here, let's give it another try. Pick that up, use it, close down, and there we have our health being functional again. Use 3 loaves of bread, great. Can't use any of that. Figures. So now we just have the issue of it transferring. So now we're going to go ahead and fix another video because it says we were running about 16 minutes in length. So I'm going to cut this short. And in the next video, we're going to fix up that little bug there where the items are no longer transferring to our inventory. And then we will try to see what all we need to do to wrap things up. So if you like what I'm doing and you want to help support me, you can find a link to my Patreon down in the description below, where I have a Team Deathmatch series just for Patrons, as well as you get early access to pretty much all of my videos, such as this one. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to join my Discord that's also linked down below, and I'll try to help you out. So I'll see you in the next video.